Hi there, and welcome to Zelda's Horror. I will post paranormal true stories every week. Again, all stories are 100% true and are chosen as the scariest and most terrifying stories I have come across. Most stories are of my own experiences and are not fake or made up. I've also made my videos with a rainy background so as to help you fall asleep. Please enjoy these 5 true Wendigo and paranormal stories in the rain, number 12. Okay, now let's begin. True story number 1, The Wendigos, told by James F. While driving down the road in the state of Arizona, me and my friend were on a business trip, and we were on a road with lots of land on one side of the road. As we were driving, we noticed something running straight across the road. It was running on all fours, and it was pitch black. I slammed on the brakes, and after it ran across the road, it stopped and turned around and looked right at us. It had a white face with human traits. It then turned back around and started running off into the woods. After we took off from that spot, we questioned what we saw and talked about it the rest of the way to our destination. After finishing up what we had to do, we headed back home. I dreaded going back through the same area because of what we saw. On the way back, my coworker friend was driving and I was in the passenger seat, asleep. Just then, my friend slammed on the brakes. I literally got jerked forward. Then, he slammed on the gas pedal and we took off, going extremely fast. I asked him what happened and he said he'll tell me once we get home. That it was nothing at all. I was very confused, but I went back to sleep. As soon as we got to my house, he asked to come inside. He came in and I asked him what really happened on the road. He said he didn't want to tell me because he knew I would have freaked out. He said as he was driving down the long stretch of road, he saw 5 people running on all fours chasing the car, coming out of the wooded area by the road. He said he slammed on the brakes to get a closer look at them, but he saw that they were not human. He said that's when he slammed on the gas pedal and took off. I was terrified when he told me this. It was really hard trying to fall asleep that night, but surprisingly, I did. In the middle of the night, I was awakened by a tapping and scratching at my bedroom window. I lived alone at that time, so it was truly terrifying knowing something was outside my window, and I was completely alone. I got my phone light on and slowly started walking towards my window. I slowly opened the curtain, and I saw the same black creature that was crawling on all fours with a white face. It had its face pressed up against my window. I ran back to bed, and that's when it started banging on the window. I called a friend over, who looked around my house and couldn't find anything. We did find scratch marks on my windowsill. This story is true, and if no one believes me, it's completely fine. I don't expect anyone to believe me, as long as I know I'm a witness to the paranormal, and I'm telling the truth. It's something I'll never forget. True paranormal story number 2, The Troll. 2 incidents happened in this true story. My mother Amelia was sleeping in her bedroom alone one morning, and she woke up with a girl standing in front of a mirror in her room. My mother said she can only see her back. She said she was brushing her hair slowly. My mother thought it was my daughter because at the time we were living with her. She said the girl didn't do anything. She just kept brushing her hair very slowly. Now my mother was confused because no one was allowed in my mother's room, especially when she was asleep. My mother asked her, "What are you doing?" The girl didn't answer. As soon as my mother raised her voice again and asked, "What are you doing in my room?" the girl slowly put the brush down and walked very slowly out of the room. This was the first paranormal occurrence. The second one was much, much worse. Again, in the early morning, about 2 weeks after that incident, my mother was awakened by someone laughing and giggling. She opened her eyes, and what she saw terrified her to the core. She was paralyzed from fear. There was a small girl with a troll-like face, laughing and dancing in front of her bed. The troll had a grin on its face, long black hair with huge eyes. My mother was so scared, yet she said a prayer out loud several times and said, "I'm not afraid." She closed her eyes, then opened them again. The troll-like girl was gone, vanished. These two stories my mother told me are very true and did indeed happen. I wanted to know more, but that's all she told me happened. Be careful that nothing is standing in front of your bed as you listen to these true stories. True paranormal story number 3, The Skinwalker. Me and my friends John and Adam went camping. As we were laying down, we heard something in the trees making noise. We waited about an hour or so, and the noises stopped. We wondered what it could be. I finished my last beer, and so did John. John said he needed to go use the restroom, so he got up and walked into the woods. He took a while, but after about 30 minutes or so, we figured something was wrong. We went looking for him. We kept calling out his name. I didn't know if he was playing a prank or what, so I got pretty upset and started yelling out angrily for him to come out and stop playing. We then got really concerned, but just then we looked down and found drops of blood. We started following the trail of blood drops, and we found him. He was facing the other way with his back face towards us. He was standing up. He was covered in blood. We shouted his name, but he did not respond. I was gonna shout his name again until he actually turned towards us. We were in shock. His face was full of blood. We looked at him closer, and he had red eyes. His face didn't even quite look the same. I knew it wasn't him. He looked at us and said, "What's up, guys? Let's go for a walk," in his regular voice. Me and Adam turned around and ran away past our campsite. We ran right into my car. It was about half a mile from our tent. We were dripping sweat. I didn't know if it was chasing us. I could have sworn I heard thumping sounds right behind us as we were running away. I made it home, and when we got out of the car, I looked at the car and saw long scratch marks on the back of the car and on the bumper. This was more than 40 years ago. I also noticed one time that I saw John at a bar. It looked just like him. I didn't know what to think of it. This was a long time ago. I recently Googled it, and now I know it could have been a skinwalker. Adam, my best friend, never recovered from this incident. Paranormal true story number 4. The Doppelganger. Again, for most people that do not know, I lived in a haunted house for more than 8 years. During this time, one of the most horrifying things occurred. My wife said she was leaving to get something to eat and went upstairs to call my daughter to come downstairs and put her shoes on so she could go with her. She went to the bathroom upstairs and then passed my daughter's room again. She noticed my daughter was still on her bed playing with her dolls. She told her to get downstairs and noticed that my daughter did not acknowledge her at all. So she raised her voice and told her to go downstairs, that she'll be waiting for her. So she went downstairs, but my daughter was already there standing by the door downstairs with her shoes on. She said, "Mommy, who were you talking to upstairs?" My wife got chills all over her body. She slowly walked up the stairs and peeked through the stairwells at my daughter's room and saw my daughter on her bed. What made her so terrified was that the girl on the bed not only was not my daughter, but she was staring directly at my wife with a straight face, showing no emotion. My wife then said she ran down the stairs and straight to the car with my real daughter in her arms and got in the car and took off. They didn't want to come back home till later when I got home from work.